Do you think those ladies in beautiful dresses are greeting guests at the entrance of a nightclub? Or is this a grand opening of a new mall? No, it's a struggling hospital trying to figure out what to do. Our hospital also has promotions and events as well as customer appreciation campaigns. The fact that an institution like a hospital also needs to promote itself inadvertently reveals a message that hospitals are out of money and that the Chinese people are out of money. If people are afraid to spend money when they are sick, do you think they will spend money on other things? Look at the sight of the locked doors of these shops. Is this a small unknown city? Nope, it's a famous pedestrian street in Guangzhou, a cosmopolitan city in China. Friends, if I hadn't seen it with my own eyes, I wouldn't believe this was the famous pedestrian street of Guangzhou, Shangshezhuo. The time is now 6 p.m. If it were this time in the past, it would have been crowded with people. But right now, if I hadn't seen it with my own eyes, I wouldn't have believed that this was Shangshezhuo. Many people thought that after the epidemic was over, there would be a boom with all kinds of businesses flourishing, but the reality is cruel. What we see now is a lot of businesses disappearing, a lot of stores closing one after another. Some pawn shops did well during the epidemic, but after the epidemic ended, they closed one after another. Even when the pedestrian street is open, there are only a few people passing by in a hurry. Friends, this phenomena is bizarre. What do you think? Some time ago, I read online that millions of people have left the city of Guangzhou. Is this true? These stores survived the 3 years of the epidemic, only to close in less than 6 months after the epidemic. Small and medium-sized stores in China have been in debt for 3 miserable years. Originally, they wanted to give it another shot after the epidemic measures were lifted, but the rebound wasn't what they expected. Some of them had broken their capital chains. They weren't confident that they could see a market shift in the short term, so when their leases became due, they closed their businesses. They had hoped that they might see an improvement after removing the COVID-0 policy, but after a few months there was really no improvement. They painfully chose to give up, which meant that the persistence of these stores over the past 3 years was in vain. Here is a famous economic zone in the Pearl River Delta, the city of Huizhou, which is also depressed. This store is under renovation. Look at this one, it's for lease. And this one isn't open. It's on break. Move along. What is the situation of this store? Anyway, it isn't open. This is also closed. The store ahead is looking for a sublease. It is closed. Gone. This one is closed as well. What is the situation of the one ahead? I don't know. It's not open anyway. An entire street, not a single store is open. Let me zoom in and have a look. This one says it's open and the air conditioning is open, but it's hard to see clearly. It actually says it's open for sublease. Of course, there are still stores open here, but many of them have signs for promotions. On this side, many stores aren't open. Look across the street. Still, a lot of stores aren't open. Look at this big storefront. It's also for rent. So many stores are closed. Just now, I was mistaken. I thought the pedestrian street was just a little bit ahead. But in fact, it's still quite a way ahead. This one's for rent. This store looks nice. Take a closer look. It has a sign for rent. The small shop is closed. The fast food restaurants are closed. The print shop is also closed. There was a fried chicken restaurant ahead. It's closed too. Now the real economy is hard. So many are closed. Ahead is a luxurious grand building. Look at its storefronts below. They aren't open. At the front entrance, it has a sign for rent. According to China's National Bureau of Statistics, the total retail sales of consumer goods in May amounted to nearly RMB 3.8 trillion, an annual increase of about 12.7%. Compared to April, the total sales increased, but the growth rate dropped by 5.7 percentage points compared to the previous month. The total retail sales of consumer goods in April decreased by 7.78% month-on-month compared to March. The rate of decline grew, and such decline has been seen across retail categories. The overall shrink in the offline sales of brick-and-mortar stores is, in some cases, related to the massive withdrawal of foreign capital, which is apparent in the Yangtze River Delta and Pearl River Delta. Because many factories have closed, it has no doubt had a direct impact on the surrounding industries, including physical stores.
大家好，这里是东莞茶。
Hello everyone, this is Dong Guang. I plan to take a few days off before looking for a job, but the situation doesn't look good. So, I can't. I must get myself together and look for work. If one day I ended up without a penny, that would make me a real loser. So, I have to hurry up to find a job. Hello everyone, I have just looked around. No factory is hiring. Many factories are for lease. This means that many bosses here have ended their businesses. It isn't easy for capitalists. The market is too difficult this year. Next, let's continue to go around and see if we can find anything. Have a look everyone. There are many posts on the opposite wall where factories are for rent. Let me zoom in a little to give you a better look. Look everyone, this year the market is too difficult. Many capitalists have disappeared. Let's look further this way. You see here there are also factories for rent. Oh, this year there are many capitalists who have gone out of business. There is another factory for rent here. Too many factories have closed. It's not likely to find a job here. Many factories have closed. This year the market is hard to describe. Tough. The sluggishness of the manufacturing industry has directly led to increasing difficulty for brick-and-mortar stores. In addition to the coastal metropolitan cities, this wave of the crumbling real economy has also spread into continental China. Let me show you the current state of Hongzhou Street, its most realistic present state. Storefronts like this used to be impossible to get. Now, can you see? What's it used for? Warehouses. It's used as a warehouse, and you still have to beg for it. This is the reality. In other words, once the fashion industry goes down, it's hard to go back up. What a nice place. How nice the Tongfang market used to be. Now look at the reality. Without anything vain, reality is what it is. It is said that this is a storefront. Do you see? It says that it can be used as a warehouse. There are also some merchants in the small alleys inside. They are all clothing manufacturers. Now they are used as warehouses. Some of them can't even be rented out, so we won't go in. And this one, Shinan Street, used to be hard to get a storefront. Now you see. What are most of them for? They are used as warehouses for packaging. In the past, this market was popular among supermarkets and retailers. They distributed goods here, and the business was excellent, but it has become like this over the past 2 years. There are still some scattered merchants sticking around here, but the number is very few. Stores are all used as packing warehouses. Some laborers come to do the packing in supermarkets and retail stores. That's all they do. Isn't it a shame? This is how sad the fashion industry is right now. In addition to the recession in the manufacturing industry, several factors have led to massive store closures. They intertwine with each other.
Another store went belly up. It's a store downstairs from where I live. The store was nearly 130 square meters. The owner kept the business going for more than 2 years. I heard that the lease for the store expired on July 1st. The landlord was to increase the rent, so the store owner chose to close the business. I heard that for more than 2 years, the store didn't make any money. Now that the store is closed, the equipment may be sold for some money and might recoup $25,000. But total loss is more than $50,000. Doing business for 2 years, losing more than $50,000. Gosh, now the physical store is too difficult. Really, like our street, if a store has been running for over 2 to 3 years, it's considered an old store. Such old stores are rare and very few. Other stores are constantly changing hands. A new tenant, a new boss will come in. Some new bosses came in to renovate the store, but only 2 to 3 months later, they started to transfer it. That is, the store has fallen into closure. It has been this cycle. This year, the street has had a slew of new stores. No newcomers doing physical stores can last over 6 months. Those in the restaurant business, many have gone through this process. Really, this year's physical stores aren't doing well, not doing well at all. You see, this year the general environment isn't good, and there are many unemployed people. This means that nobody has money to spend. So I really don't know what to do in the second half of the year. You see, today is July 1st, and half of the year has passed. For small stores like mine, I think the crisis is serious, and the pressure is very high. Now people come out to the street, to our physical stores, but they don't spend much. These people are more willing to use online platforms such as Pinduoduo. Oh, what should we do? I saw a lot of videos online, as well as comments from netizens, saying that more physical stores should close later in the second half of the year.
This woman mentioned two important phenomena. One is the popularity of online shopping platforms, including Alibaba, gradually replacing the trend of brick-and-mortar offline consumption. As we reported previously, the Alibaba business empire founded by Jack Ma is collapsing. On March 27, 2023, Jack Ma returned to China. Within 90 days of his return, he made 3 major changes. One of them is to change the business direction. Jack Ma gathered the heads of Taobao and Tmall business and had a meeting. Both Tmall and Taobao are e-commerce platforms that belong to the Alibaba group. Anyone with a valid Chinese ID can open a Taobao store, but only verified businesses can open Tmall stores. Jack Ma said that the current competitive situation was tough. He gave a direct direction for the future. That is, the next opportunity is Taobao rather than Tmall. Ali e-commerce should return to Taobao. Returning to Taobao means that small and medium-sized businesses will receive greater traffic support in the future. In other words, Ali will also switch to the low-price strategy. That is, Alibaba, the e-commerce giant, will go for a low-price strategy like Pinduoduo. If you aren't familiar with it, just check out Temu. It's a North American version of Pinduoduo. Another e-commerce giant, Jingdong, its boss Liu Qiangdong, said in November 2022, "Low price is the most important weapon of our past success and the only basic weapon in the future." In March 2023, Jingdong went online with a 10 billion RMB subsidy, targeting Pinduoduo. Sensitive people will soon sense the unusual signal. Alibaba and Jingdong, both as the representatives of the traditional e-commerce giants, began to turn to a low-price strategy for competition. Last month, there was a major e-commerce consumer festival in China, that is, 618, or the June 18th shopping festival. The 618 festival coincided with Jingdong's 20th anniversary, Father's Day, and the Dragon Boat Festival. E-commerce giants all described it as a festival with the biggest investment in history. They competed with low prices for traffic. What was the result? These e-commerce giants didn't announce their turnover. Perhaps the numbers were too low and were embarrassing. So those in the industry tried other methods to figure out the answer. The Chinese media China Business Network reported that the big data shows that this year's total online transaction growth rate of 618 Shopping Festival was the lowest in 3 years. Beijing courier operators said that the 618 courier volume was lower than last year's level. The second factor that the lady mentioned earlier is that more people in China are losing their jobs or are unable to find jobs. That's true. We've done several episodes on the unemployment situation in China. Let's just look at the delivery industry here. We have chosen this industry because one can tell if unemployment is a serious problem by looking at the bottom of the scale and by looking at the lowest paid people. If these people are having trouble, then the problem is surely to be bad. The takeout industry is considered the bottom line job for most people because there was no entry barrier. But now, too many people are delivering takeout, including unemployed wage earners, small business owners who failed their businesses, and college students who can't find jobs. With so many people pouring in, orders and revenue are plummeting. According to Chinese media reports, the number of active drivers on Didi, an Uber-like platform, has grown by more than 12 million in 3 years, and the number of takeout riders, couriers, and delivery workers has increased by about 8 million. One platform employs 2.952 million riders. Among them, those with college degrees and above account for more than 24.7%, including 528,000 college students, 144,000 undergraduates, and 57,000 graduate students and above.
不要听张雪峰那小子的话啊。
Don't listen to experts like Zhang Shufeng, okay? I was in the experimental class of excellence in journalism from East China University of Political Science and Law. I was freaking promised a 100% employment rate upon graduation. I ended up working as a freaking takeout rider at Meituan. Massive store closures, one after another, are a snapshot of the present Chinese economy, showing a long-term economic slowdown. Consumption is sluggish. In addition to the large number of physical stores closing, the trend of price cuts on homes and automobiles clearly shows this as well. Brothers, I am confused. Not only are used car dealers confused, but car owners are confused. The entire auto industry is confused. This time, new cars in more than 30 cities are being offered at reduced prices. Let's take a look at the bitter experience of one car owner selling his car. Let me tell you their story. Last night, I went to collect a 2019 Honda Crider. I arrived and chatted with the owner and learned that when the owner bought the car, the guide price was 119,800 yuan. The purchase tax was 10,000, and the license plate cost 1,000, and the insurance was 5,000. The retail discount at the time should have been 6,000 yuan. I calculated that the cost of getting the car on the road was 130,000 yuan, or US 18,000. When I offered him US 8,300, the owner's expression was helpless and heartbroken, and more than that, he was confused. The owner asked me if Honda, which was supposed to hold the value, has become like this. 4 years of owning the car, a period when everyone was wearing a mask, and 1 year with pretty much no driving. The car didn't even sell for half the price. The owner of the car sold it so late, which means he must be desperate for money for certain things. The vehicles that were once considered to hold their value, such as Honda or Toyota, be they new or used, are basically experiencing the same thing. The market has shocked us all. How to drive spending in China? Chinese economists have been advising the Chinese government. Some scholars call on the government to issue consumption vouchers to solve the lack of consumption in the short term and restore consumer confidence. For example, a professor of economics who enjoys a special allowance from the State Council said that one of the core reasons for the current economic downturn in China is the lack of spending by the people. He strongly recommends the central government allocate 500 billion yuan, i.e. about 69 billion US dollars, and give it to all citizens directly, with an expiration date at the end of the year. According to his conservative estimate, a consumption voucher of this size could boost spending to at least double the amount of the voucher, i.e. about US 140 billion. And this rise in spending would in turn return at least US 40 billion to the treasury through tax. The International Monetary Fund has also called on the Chinese government to tilt its finances toward the residential sector, including giving money to low and middle-income households. However, the Chinese government has been arguing that handing out money is ineffective because Chinese people are frugal and will save the money they have and not spend it. The government's view isn't shared by some academics in China. For example, a scholar named Yin Jianfeng. In January 2023, he published an article entitled, "Why Don't the Chinese Spend?" The article analyzed the deeper reasons why Chinese people are afraid to spend. According to the article, China's resident consumption rate, or the ratio of resident consumption to GDP, depends on two factors. One is the propensity to consume, which is the proportion of each yuan of resident disposable income spent on consumption. The other is the percentage of disposable income in household incomes. Comparing the two indicators in China and the US, we can see that during the 20 years from 2001 to 2020, the average disposable income in China was 61%, while in the US it was 76%. The consumption propensity in China was 63%, while that in the US was 92%. In other words, if China's disposable income share increased to the level of the US, the resident consumption rate would reach 48%, which is comparable to the average of middle and high-income countries. Or, with a given disposable income, if China's consumption propensity increased to the level of the US, the consumption rate would reach 56%, which is comparable to the global average. The propensity to consume depends on income, and a high and stable income will naturally lead to a high consumption propensity. The data presented by this scholar shows that the propensity to consume has been rising since 2010, but the percentage of people's disposable income has basically remained unchanged, and it was even lower in 2019 than that of 2012. Therefore, the reason why Chinese people don't spend is not because they are frugal, but because they are too indebted and have no more money to spend.